Hello, my name is Joy, and I'm currently writing what will hopefully be my debut novel. I'm currently calling it Project Phoenix, and it is a high fantasy with a romantic subplot. All right, there's a lot that I want to do this week in terms of writing. Last week, if you saw my last video, I went on a writing retreat, which was absolutely thrilling, so wonderful, so much fun, and I managed to write 7K words. I almost reached 50K in my first draft, which for me is probably going to be about the halfway point. It looks like Alphonse has joined us, of course, as he always does when I start filming. The second I start filming, he enters the room. Yeah, so I got to 50K, which will be about the midpoint, roughly. I'm kind of right in the middle of my first draft. I actually hit 50K during a writing live stream, which was super exciting because I actually had never really attended any of those live streams live before. I had poked around at them after the fact, but I just had never been able to catch one live. It just never really worked for my schedule. I wasn't really like thinking about it or intentionally trying to do it, and I wasn't sure if it would be my cup of tea. But now that I've done it, I actually realized that it's really fun and I should try to do it more often. Speaking of which, I actually have one pulled up right now that I'm a couple of minutes late for because I'm filming the intro to this video, but I will be joining them momentarily. This week I would love to hit 4,000 words if I can. I mean, that's generally loosely my goal for each week, but I do, since I am reaching the middle, I do kind of want to slow down for a second and reevaluate a few pieces of my story again, and really nail down the vibe that I'm going for, kind of the voice that I'm going for, because I've been finding that some of the scenes have been more challenging for me to write because I'm getting a little bit in my head and not feeling like I know my story. I don't know. It's like a weird sensation because I've been writing it for so long, but now I'm like, wait a minute, is this like how I want it to actually be? So this week I do want to make a mood board together. That will be kind of my main task in addition to writing. I also found some Scrivener themes and downloaded them, and I've been toggling between a few to figure out which one I like. And I think that all of that will potentially serve to inspire me, give me a little bit of extra fuel to keep going, especially in that muddy middle part of the story where, you know, I'm excited about what's going on, but also it's getting like a little bit overwhelming. And I would just love to give myself an extra dose of inspiration. So let's join this stream, and I'm going to be writing. It's on Cody the writer's YouTube, but it's the 10K weekend featuring Taylor, Natalie, and this particular stream has Brielle Wrights in it as well. But I think that they've been shuffling out various guests along with their 10K journey this weekend, which has been such a delight to kind of see everyone interact in the chat and write together. I mean, that's been really honestly super motivating. And I've always been very much a solo writer, even when I was a creative writing major and in all of these creative writing classes and collaborating with people and at least like talking about critiquing each other. I always viewed writing as more of a solitary activity, but the community of authortube is honestly genuinely wonderful. So it's a great thing to be a part of, and I'm excited to join this stream. So let's buckle in and I guess let's listen to what they're saying.
My goal is to just...
I would love to get through chapter 24. It's only...
that tracks. Let's maybe jump into our first sprint. Let's just break the seal, rip the band-aid off of our final day. 10K weekend is here. Best of luck to all of you, and we'll see you in 25 minutes.
Well, that was fun. I only got to participate in one single sprint of 25 minutes because it is almost 4 p.m. and I would like to go run 5 miles at least before the sun sets. And, you know, that'll take me probably about an hour. So I need to go get myself ready for that, go for a run. It is legitimately so freezing outside, but I haven't been running very much this week because of how cold it's been and snowy. I mean, we had like a whole winter storm blow through over this past weekend. So I can't believe I'm saying this about myself, because 8 months ago, if you had told me that I would be itching to go for a run, I would not have believed you, but here we are. But while I'm running, I love to listen to my book playlist that I've put together. It's primarily orchestral scores from TV shows and movies and video games and stuff like that, like very much fantasy music. But I do have a handful of other more catchy, fun songs sprinkled in there of various genres that just capture certain characters in my book. And honestly, while I'm running, I tend to come up with the best ideas, and I'll come up with like a few offhand lines here or there. And I don't know, I'm excited, especially on this run, to be thinking about a new character that I just introduced in the scene that I'm writing right now. I feel like I need to get to know this character better. I need to learn how to get into this character's head, because I have an idea of the way that I want him to be, but I haven't fully inhabited this character, if that makes sense. And he's not a POV character or anything, but I feel like in order to write authentic dialogue for him, and in order to know exactly how he would behave in a given scene and a given interaction, I just need to get into his head a little bit. So I will probably queue up on Spotify songs that I feel reflect this character, and I'll just be thinking about this character over the course of the entire run. That's my plan, but like, who knows? Maybe my mind will wander and I'll think of other things, or I might give up halfway through my run because it's like 20 degrees outside and super snowy, and I can't believe I'm about to go for a run. But like, honestly, I kind of like running in the snow. The last several weeks have been like my first experiences running in the snow, and honestly though, it's fantastic. Sorry, I needed to change where I was sitting so that I could actually look at my laptop properly. But over the course of the writing sprint, I mainly spent it, so I only added about 120 words to the manuscript, technically speaking, and I spent a lot of time refining some of the lines from one of the previous scenes I had written over the course of the writing retreat, because there were just like a lot of gaps in the prose, and I don't know, the language was just bothering me. It wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I really kind of zeroed in on the line level. While I'm writing for my first draft, I try to avoid zeroing in super intensely on any one single line. I'm more so painting with broad strokes. But frankly, like, I just can't resist sometimes. But I like to, it's almost like giving myself a little treat on occasion to zero in at the line level and try to tinker around with language and figure out the best way to express something. I just love, that's my favorite part about writing. So this first draft process sometimes is a little bit painful because I am resisting that inclination so often, because I mean, it would just slow me down way too much. I mean, I spent probably 10 to 15 minutes of the writing sprint just toying around with a handful of lines, which, to be most efficient, I should be doing that while revising. But again, it's a treat to myself. The satisfaction of writing a good line keeps me going. So I need to do it sometimes. Okay. I'm done justifying my behavior. I think you all get it. But I'm fairly happy with this, because these lines initially were really like just way too wordy, but I was able to make it a little bit more succinct and visceral. It's a piece of internality that my main character, Vera, is experiencing. And I actually ended up sharing this in the chat, which is always a little bit like naked and vulnerable. But yeah, this had been the last line that I was working on and tweaking, and they were like, hey, does anyone want to share their last line that they wrote? So I went ahead and shared it, and I'll go ahead and share it with you guys as well. Inviting the others to scrutinize her idea felt like exposing a tender baby to the onslaught of prodding fingers. She needed to consider it more deeply for herself, to analyze it at all angles before she would be ready to shove it into the open, merciless air. That's one of the lines that I tweaked. Again, it was like way more wordy than that. And it could probably even be pared down more, but I'm pretty happy with where it landed. So it's lines like that keep me going. I'm pretty happy with just the visceral feeling that gives me. I'm going to pack up. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go out on a run. And for the rest of the week, I still want to make that mood board. I want to figure out which Scrivener theme that I want to commit to. And I want to write more.
I'm like a turtle hiding in its shell. I'd love to see the world, but I can't see all
So it's been a few days. Hang on, I need to take an obligatory sip of my coffee. Enliven my spirits. I do have some things to update you on. I last filmed on Sunday and I just have not had a good time to film between now and then. I've very much been writing like a gremlin in the darkness of the night, you know, with my hair up in a bun and in a dark corner or like in bed with all the lights out. So like not very aesthetic writing practices or ideal times to film, you know, but I've been getting some words down, so I'm currently sitting at 52,528 words, and I don't know how many words I had when I started this, but I think I had maybe just hit 50K. So it's been a productive week so far, which is solid. That's good. Although I will say that most of my writing thus far, like this week, has ended up being, other than with the exception of on Sunday when I was really tweaking lines and writing polished prose and going back through what I had already written, the rest of this week has been a lot of zero draft type drafting. You know, I'm writing the story out. I'm writing kind of like the skeleton of what I'm going to write later, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more like an expanded outline maybe, but I don't know. I just needed to do some brainstorming and verbal processing for the rest of the book because I had come up with an outline for the rest of the book, but then I was realizing there were some gaps there and some things that weren't working. So I've just been fleshing it out a little bit more compared to what I had previously. And some of it is prose and like pieces of dialogue and stuff like that, but a lot of it is very much me telling myself like, okay, this is what I want this chapter to look like. And I also did it a little bit out of order because I was struck with inspiration for kind of the last arc of the book. Yeah, that was really fun to have a bunch of ideas that, you know, it seemed a little bit foggy in my mind. I had a very general outline, but I went and expanded that significantly with some ideas about, especially the setting. Like I wrote lines of prose regarding the setting for the last city that they're going to be in. And I was sort of conceptualizing it a little bit more clearly and doing a little bit of world building in conjunction with that because my world building style tends to be more responsive to the plot rather than the other way around. Generally speaking, like I tend to come up with things on the fly. I mean, not everything, but a lot of things. I feel like I was also able to identify a few more beats within Vera's arc. She's my female main character, if you don't know, especially for the beginning of the book, because the beginning currently as it stands is by far the least developed part of the novel, which I mean is to be expected because I was largely warming up and trying to figure out the story initially. It took me a while, but I've known for a long time that I'm actually going to go back and write a whole another chapter or two in the beginning because I feel like as it stands now, you don't really understand Vera that well. You don't really know what her life is like before the inciting incident. I pretty much sat down and wrote maybe like 1,000 words before the inciting incident. Like it's really fast, maybe 2,000 words, because I started writing it when it was only 1,000 words before the inciting incident, but then I went back and added another 1,000 words before that, but now I feel like I need to go back again. And so I was also spending some time brainstorming and writing ideas down for that like first chapter or two that I'm going to go back and add in later. But I think that I just did not know enough about the world and enough about the characters to properly introduce them. So I kind of knew all along that the beginning of the story would be different from what I started off with. I don't know. Let me know if you relate to that sort of process, because I do know a lot of people that, you know, the beginning is what shines the clearest in their mind when they get started, and then the beginning ends up being really polished. I think I'm the type of person that I start at the inciting incident and I have to fill in the beginning later. I don't know. That's just me. In summary, in general, I am pretty pleased with the progress that I've had in the story this week, because a lot of it, even if it wasn't really nice prose that I was getting down most of the time, I am feeling more and more comfortable with where the story is headed, which is always a good thing. Another thing I want to talk about though really fast is we've had a lot of snow this week, and I think a lot of people throughout the United States have experienced similar things, and it has been so fun. I honestly love snow. I don't love the cold and I don't love the darkness, although today is a very sunny day, and if you notice, I am like basking in the sunlight right now, because if you are not aware, I grew up in South Florida. I am a South Florida girly, but now I'm living in Ohio, where it is significantly less sunny and colder most of the time. But yeah, I'm very much photosynthesizing, honestly. But what was I even saying? Oh yeah. I do love the snow though, and it just makes me feel so cozy. So I've honestly been in the biggest reading mood this week. I love reading in general, but I started an audiobook of The Picture of Dorian Gray, and today, maybe 30 minutes ago, I finished my first read of January, which was The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And it's the first book in the Farseer trilogy, which is a very popular fantasy series from like the 90s and beyond. She continued expanding on this world of the Six Duchies, to my understanding, for quite a while. And honestly, oh my gosh, you guys, I feel like I learned so much from this book because I've been trying to, like, one of my goals for this year was to be more intentional with the books I was choosing to read, and also to be more intentional with paying attention. I mean, I've always sort of paid attention to narrative and character and writing and prose, and I've always tried to learn from other writers and kind of try to have some sort of osmosis thing going on, you know, because the more that you read, the better you tend to get at writing. But I've really been intentional trying to pay attention to storytelling and strategies and things that, you know, if you want to get lost in the story, like you tend to not notice like why things are working as well as they're working. But I was paying attention, and I just have so much admiration for Robin Hobb. This was my first book of hers that I read, and I'm excited to delve into the rest of her books over time. It's going to take a while, I think, to read through all of her books, but I love her writing. I love it so much, and I loved her characters. I will say the first half of the book and in general, the plot moved at a bit of a glacial pace because we are following this character from the time that he is 6 years old through, I mean, in this book, I think it got up to like maybe 14 or 15. Obviously, I'm assuming we're just going to be following him throughout his entire life. So it's going to be a long journey. But at the halfway mark is when it really became a page turner for sure. Like that's when the plot thickened, as they say. And I was hooked. Like I could not stop reading it from that point. So I spent a lot of time reading that book on my Kindle. The next book that I think I'm going to read, I'm going to finish The Picture of Dorian Gray on audiobook in tandem with the next book that I start, which I think is going to be the first book of the Mistborn trilogy. I don't know why I'm starting two different trilogies like at the same time, but I am. I joined like a book club on Discord. Is that what it's called? Like a book reading group? I don't know. And we're all supposed to be reading Mistborn together. So I just purchased The Final Empire on my Kindle because the wait for it on Libby was going to be far too long. I'm still on the wait list for the audiobook though, so wish me luck. I don't know, I'm really excited about it, and I am thinking about trying to do a reading vlog of it. I don't know. It would be my first time ever filming a reading vlog, so let me know if you want to see that from me, because I love to read as much as I love to write, and I think that reading really informs my writing, and I would love to kind of analyze it because so many people, obviously, Brandon Sanderson is so popular, but I do want to enter into it with a little bit of a critical lens, not to be critical of his work, but just to try to evaluate, okay, like what's working here? Like what do people like about Brandon Sanderson? What are my impressions? And this seems to be maybe his second most popular series. I feel like Stormlight Archive is maybe his most popular. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you want to see that, because I kind of want to do it. It might take a while to film because I think it's going to take a while for me to get through, but maybe it won't. Maybe I will devour the book. Who knows? But anyway, let's get on to the next thing I wanted to do, because I very much wanted to create a mood board with you guys for my book, and I'm quite excited about this. A little bit nervous, but generally quite excited because honestly, I can't say that I've ever actually made a mood board before. I was racking my brain trying to think like, wait, did I ever do that? This might sound really weird and bizarre, but I don't know if I fully have a grasp on what the tone of my story is. It's just coming out as it comes out. So it's very reflective of me. And obviously it's a fantasy, but I feel like that's a problem. I feel like I should be able to articulate exactly what the vibe and tone is. And I think that creating this mood board will not only serve as a font of inspiration, as I've been saying, but as I've been thinking on it more, the visual of a mood board will really genuinely help me to either identify what's already there. Sir, you're blocking the shot. You narcissist. Come on. What was I saying? It will either help me to identify what the tone is because I'll visually see things that match up with what I already know about the story, and I'll be like, oh, okay, it'll click. That's what I'm hoping for. Or if anything, I just hope that it will guide me. I can maybe identify what I want the tone and the mood to be. And if I have a visual that's consistently reminding me of what I'm going for, that will help. So I'm trying to think of where to even begin with this mood board. I'm just going to search words that I've associated with my book. I might start with character or setting. What type of setting do I have? What types of characters? Is it hopeful? Is it more dark? I will say the first song that ignited this story in my mind actually years ago, because I started drafting this story back in March of last year, 2024. But for years, since I first heard this song, Devil Town by Bright Eyes, I just Googled it here so you can see which one I'm talking about. And I thought, oh, what a cool idea for a story. I mean, it's a very narrative type song. The lyrics are, I was living in a devil town. I didn't know it was a devil town, which is so fascinating to me. This idea of you're so used to your environment and your culture that like you're often blind to what's going around you. And then it goes on to say, all my friends were vampires. I didn't know they were vampires. Turns out I was a vampire myself in the devil town. And it just sort of repeats that refrain over and over again. And that was, again, like the first spark for this story. It has since gone in a very completely different direction. I still love that concept though, because I mean, my story doesn't even have vampires in it, at least not yet. Initially, I was thinking of including vampires and werewolves and having the main character live in a like more of a devil town with all of the classic, I guess, evil mythological creatures or something. I don't know. That was my original idea. It has since gone so far in a different direction. I don't even know that this is really the vibe anymore. It really isn't, I don't think, based on how I've written the story, even though this was the inciting spark for the story and for the initial setting that I chose, because the tone of this is very much a little bit dark, desolate, but almost cozy. The other facet that I do like about this song that I think has carried on into the story is the idea of all my friends were vampires. I didn't know they were vampires. Turns out I was a vampire myself, which I already said. And obviously it can be taken at face value and be kind of an intriguing story. But if you dig a little bit deeper beneath the surface, what do vampires do? They suck blood, they suck life out of other people. And so it's this idea of being a taker or a predator. It could also be the idea of loneliness, because I think that vampires have often been used as a symbol for isolation and being different and othered. But all that to say, that idea of friends being takers, and it turns out like at a moment of introspection, you realize that you are also a taker, you are also wicked, you are also bad and you are blind to it, but you know, you have that moment of clarity. I like some of those ideas, and honestly I think that I might write a story later on that has those ideas a little bit more overtly. I think as an individual I just can't really resist that hopeful inclination. So that is a starting point. I think to get us started, I'm just going to look for images that strike me as like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm going for. So like, oh, this right here, this is like a picture of a castle. I feel like that is a fun vibe, very fantasy. I'm just trying to browse the photos and see. I'm on Unsplash right now, by the way, and I just looked up fantasy just to get a start. It's another cool looking castle, but I don't know if it's quite the same. Oh, that reminds me of Lord of the Rings. It's so fun. I'm trying to think. Okay, so setting wise, there's a swamp. So I want to see if there's any sort of swamp or like coastal wetlands. When I look at it, I don't know, because that's sort of our starting point. We are on the coast initially, and a bit of a coastal wetlands swampy area, but none of these feel quite like what I'm looking for. I'm gonna bounce over to Paxels. So I did look up atmospheric. That's cool. That reminds me of Narnia. No, let's look up coastal wetlands and see if they have anything. I also have kind of my own version of the redwood forest because I recently visited the Muir Woods, which I loved, and it sort of bled itself into my story. Yeah, obviously that's not like the most original thing ever, but I just loved it too much to not. Oh, come on, redwood forest. Aha, there we go. I was like, why are there no redwoods here? Okay, so I don't want any that have like a modern road or anything. I'm gonna zoom out so you can see them a little better. Ooh. Yeah, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just starting with setting. As far as seasons go, the story is currently taking place over the summer. So that is the season, but I wouldn't say it's like a super positive summary type thing, but it's not like, I don't know, I feel like autumn and winter in particular have a very specific vibe to them. Ooh, I'll download that. So I'm just downloading a bunch of pictures right now that speak to me. And I will arrange them and decide what I like later. Ooh, I like that too. Well, it does have like telephone lines, which are obviously not in the story. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so I do have one of the settings that are pretty significant. Yeah. It has this vibe for sure. Like a kind of like, it's not a burnt forest, but like think, you know, dead gnarled trees. And a burnt forest would be the most analogous to what I'm thinking in, you know, the real world. So did I download this? I don't know if I did. That for sure. So all of those are definitely like spooky elements of the setting in one of the areas where they go. I think, let me find more of a castle, because I feel like that would be a vibe. Oh, this is, let me look up a castle with like an ocean maybe. This is cool. I did make a fictional flower that is largely fashioned after wisteria, but it has magical properties. So I'll include some wisteria. There's actually quite a few statues and that sort of thing going on, which I think is also indicative of a more prosperous time before. Because a lot of this world, you know, people are still living, they're surviving. It used to be a lot more prosperous than it is now. So I also, you know, I feel like the statues sort of show that, in addition to a lot of other elements in the story, but okay, I spent almost another hour just perusing. I sourced pretty much all of my photos from Unsplash and Pexels, and then I also downloaded some things off of Pinterest, which I was hesitant to do because some of it is AI generated and stuff, and I wanted to mostly use royalty-free images because it doesn't sit right with me to use images that aren't. I figured since it's for my own personal reference, I'm not publishing this anywhere at all. I'm not putting it really on social media other than just like showing you guys what it looks like. I don't know. I guess it's not that big of a deal if it's for my own personal reference, but I didn't see any artist names anywhere. So I suspect that some of it wound up being AI generated anyways, but like, whatever. I just do my best. And this is exclusively for my own personal reference anyways. So I ended up downloading like 41 images and I don't even know if I'm fully satisfied with exactly what I got, but there are a few things that I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm just going to start by placing photos and hoping for the best that it like meshes together. I kind of want to pick one photo to be the overall main background photo to overlay the rest of the things on. So let me see if I can find one for that first. Okay, wow, that took significantly longer than I thought that it would, but okay, I had no idea how this was going to turn out. Also, I apologize, the sun is just like directly hitting me because it has been that long. The sun is completely shifted. Hang on, let me bring down the blinds a little bit. All right, that's a little bit better. But okay, so like I wasn't really sure what to expect with this whole process. I did not have very much of a vision and I felt very unsure the entire time. But now that I'm seeing it, oh, I honestly love it. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I will put it here on the screen as well so that you can get a better look at it. Now that I'm like actually seeing it all together, obviously I didn't use every single image, but I used quite a few of them, and yeah, I feel like the vibe is vibing, and I'm really happy to have this visual. It's so satisfying to me. I kind of wanted to include quotes or something, but I don't have any quotes that I feel fully encapsulate the story yet. Or maybe I do, but they're just not coming to mind immediately. But I'm very excited about this, you guys. Okay. But yeah, with that, honestly, that's like all I was really planning to do for this video, is like a little bit of a writing vlog slash mood board creation. So maybe this might inspire you to go make a mood board. It honestly, genuinely turned out 10 times better than I thought that it would. Maybe I just had like really low expectations, but I'm really excited to just have this kind of pulled up next to me in addition to all of the music and stuff that I have. Maybe I might include the playlist that I listen to while I write the book. Probably once the book is complete, I'll make a complete actual playlist that's a little bit more refined. But I don't know, I think that a lot of the songs on the playlist that I listen to also capture the vibe. So in conjunction with both of them, I don't know. I think it's fun, and it can give you guys a little taste of what I'm currently working on. Obviously, everything is subject to change. I might go through this at a later time and decide, you know what, like this is all going to be completely different. But as it stands now, I love it. I love it a lot. And I'm excited. This is making me like in the mood to write, which honestly, like that was like part of the goal, was feeling inspired. So I'm going to go probably write some more this week. I still have about 1,500 words left between now and the end of the day Saturday. And on Saturday, I'm also probably going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons in the evening. So I've got to get a lot of stuff done before then, because my Saturday evening is completely taken up, and that tends to be a time when I usually carve out time to write. So anyway, yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If you want to continue following my writing journey, as well as, you know, that reading vlog I was talking about, or just any of my general thoughts on craft, and, you know, maybe you just like the vibe, please do subscribe, join along. I'd love to have you. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you made it to the end of the video, please comment down maybe a fire emoji, because I noticed there was a lot of fire going on. I mean, it is called Project Phoenix, so there's definitely a lot of fire motifs going on in the story for sure. But yeah, if you are writing a book, I hope that your journey is going well and that you flourish in all that you do. Bye!